Hey guys, we're getting into some Photoshop collages with some images that you've collected. Some of you are choosing to alter the images that I have provided. You'll be able to find a folder in the pickup if you're interested that will include these 4 images that I'm using in this tutorial. This is part 1, so this is basically what we went over the first day. Maybe a little bit more depending on which class you were in. Will determine kind of how far we got. So what I want to do is open up these 4 images. You're going to open up your 4 images, your choice, in Photoshop. A couple ways to do that. You can right click on your image and then go to where it says open with and choose Photoshop, and it'll open up your images in different tabs. So here's my first one. You can go open up that folder again, open with, Photoshop again, go back, right click, open with. I have 3 tabs right now. Another way I can do this is if I do Control O or File Open. I can search for the folder that I want to open images in. I know it's in collage images here, and I think I have this one yet to do, so I'm going to find that and then click open. So you can either go directly to the picture and go to open with Photoshop, or I can be in Photoshop and just go to file open and find those images, and it will open them up like this in different tabs. You're going to notice if you start to just drag images into Photoshop, you're probably going to start stacking those images up in different layers, and we don't want to do that just yet. So I got these 4 images here. That's basically step 1. Step 2, you want to get into customizing your canvas size. So anytime you have like an idea in mind of what orientation you want your image to be in, you can customize that and determine that by either going to File, New, or Control N on your keyboard, and you'll be able to adjust your height and width and resolution of your canvas from right here. So for this assignment, I'm asking you guys to make your longest dimension, whether it's your height or width, or both. If you're going to make a square, you're going to make that 20 inches. I want mine to be kind of a panoramic, so I'm actually going to keep the 8. I'll make it a bit shorter than it is wide. Resolution is 300 because you never know. Just for good practice, if you're creating something that's just great and awesome, we can print this up and we don't have to worry about it being a good quality. So 300 is good for your resolution, and make sure that this says inches. If this says pixels, you're creating something really tiny. I'll do that just so you can see. So I'll do it to pixels. If I did 20 for the width and 8 here, and I create a canvas, there's my canvas right there. These are inches. If that were an inch, this is how big that canvas would be. So this is not good. I'm going to do that again. Control N. I'm going to change this to inches. 20 for the width. I'm doing 8 for the height. You can, if you have something in mind for how you want your collage to look, then you can customize it however you want. Click OK, and there's my canvas. First thing I want to do is set my background. I want to know what kind of background you have. See what looks pretty good, something that you can easily kind of drag and drop other images on top of without it getting too crowded. This image will work out good for me, so I'm going to choose my move tool. Anytime you want to move or resize images, you're going to make sure that you use move tool right here, or you can see right there you can press V as in Victor on the keyboard. So I got my move tool selected. I'm going to click, and I'm holding down with my mouse, and I'm dragging up to the tab, and I'm still dragging down to my canvas, and I'm going to move this towards the middle here. Now I can resize this. I see these controls right here. By default, yours might not show that. So you can click this, show transform controls. They've disappeared now. I always have that open because I like to resize and move around my images. Now I can stretch images out. I can do this, and it might look distorted. It might look really pixelated. If I want to keep it the right proportion but just make it larger, I'm going to hold shift on the keyboard as I drag from one of these corner controls. I need to zoom out a little bit. I'm going to stretch this out so it fits my canvas size as far as the width goes, and then I'm going to move it upwards so I can see a little bit of that landscape. And the fact that it's missing some of the sky doesn't bother me. This is pretty much what I want from my image here. And then this is important. Sometimes it's not going to let you move on to the next step, or if you do try to go on to the next step, it might reset your picture to the previous size. Now if I tried doing something else, sometimes it'll ask me if I want to apply the transformation. And I want to do that. I want to save the changes that I made right here. So I'm going to apply that, and it's going to set that image right there. Sometimes you can press enter. If I move this or resize this, you see that these come up. And if that's ever up there on your option bar, you're going to have to hit enter or click the check mark to make sure you set your changes that you've done on your canvas here. So I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to save that change that I just did. So there we go. We got a background on our canvas now. The rest of the image doesn't show because it's not on the canvas. I'm going to pick my next image right here, and I'm going to drag this image. I'm going to do the same thing that I did with that first one. I'm going to drag this image over to my new creation here. Move tool selected, click, dragging up to that bar or that tab, dragging it back down, letting go, and now I can see my controls here. I'm going to move this off to the side, and I'm going to resize this a little bit. Now, for collage, what I don't want is this to be just like a big chunk right here on the side of my picture. Most of the time, at least for our purpose, what we're doing, we're going to try to blend these images together a little bit better, show you some different options. One of the first and easiest options you can use is with this layer selected. I'm going to choose my blending modes right here. This is my layers panel. I'm going to choose this window right here. It says normal, and for you guys it's a lot easier because you can click one of these options and then use your keyboard to move your image or go through and scroll through like the different blending options here. On the Mac, I'm not sure how exactly to do that, so I have to go through and I'm going to look at how these options affect my picture. So what it's doing, these little commands are telling your images how to blend together, how that top layer is going to react with the bottom layer, and they're all kind of different. Alright, so here's where we left off. I got going through and changing, seeing what my different options are in the blending modes. Go through these. Every picture is going to be a little bit different. They'll blend together differently depending on what images you have layered on top of your background. These are all different options. Check those out. I'm going to stick with this one. There is a previous example that I have here. Kind of shows like all the different steps we're going through. So we got your background, we've got your blended image right here off to the side. Now what I'm going to do is select and separate this image of the girl or whatever object you might have in one of your pictures and bring it over to this image as well. So I'm going to go back and find image. Here she is. And I need to select her. I want to separate her from the background first. So I'm going to use my quick selection tool. Looks like a little brush with the dotted lines around the end of it. And you can resize your tool using the brackets next to the P on your keyboard. And you can start brushing around your object. Try to make a good selection. If you select too much, like I don't want this part to be selected in here, I can press Alt on the keyboard and click inside so that it takes away that little bit of selection. And sometimes it's kind of jumpy, you'll just have to brush around and try to work with it. Just Alt, push that line back to where it should be. Wish there was a time-lapse setting on this recording so I can do this pretty quick. Almost there. This old Mac can barely get it done, I think. It's pretty bad. Alright, so I think I pretty much have the selection that I want. Now what I want to do is separate this from the background layer. So with this tool still selected, I'm going to right click inside of her and go to where it says layer via copy. Click on that. You're going to see that it separates another layer with just the selection that I made. And that way I can alter this and change it how I want and move it over. So another adjustment I want to show you guys is how to take this image and make it into like a simple stamp-like effect. You can go to Image, Adjustments, and Threshold, and it will break it down to basically a plain black and white adjustment of your picture. You can slide this, this depends on what kind of picture you have. You might want to bring out more details, you might want to darken it some or lighten it if it's too dark. I'm pretty happy with where it was, somewhere in the middle. I'm going to click OK on that. And this is good. I want to show you the end product here. And this is what the kind of effect that I want to get, where basically what was black in that image is now a different color, and I've taken that selection and moved it over here. And so I'm going to try that out with this one right here. What I want to do is select just the black area. Now with the quick selection tool, I can try that. It's going to drive me absolutely bonkers. So I don't want to do that. I want to deselect that. I want to use the tool that's underneath my quick selection tool. If I right click on it, I can find the magic wand. Click on that. And the magic wand, what I can do is select the black areas of my image, and it's going to select all of the black. What you might have to do, by default, you might have contiguous up here selected, and if that's the case, if I select on her with contiguous checked, you can see it's only going to select the black areas that are immediately connected to each other. There's some black areas over here that aren't selected because it's not connected to her head. So I want to uncheck that and try that again. And now this is the selection that I want. Now, this is how we've used our selection tools in the past. You make a selection and now you can alter the color. And so what I'm going to do is click on my color selector over here, choose a color that I want, any color in the rainbow you can choose from, click OK. Nothing's happened yet because now I have to apply that color to the selection. And if you go about halfway down, you'll either see the gradient tool, which is this, or if you right click on it, you might see the paint bucket tool. You want to find that tool, and you're going to again make sure that contiguous is not checked, and I'm going to click on her inside that selection. So this is the color that I want her to be. Now I can take this and use my move tool and leave this selected, and when I do that and try and move her over, you see what it does. It just grabs that selection. I want her to be pretty transparent. Just another way to try to blend this image with the background. So I didn't drag the white area or all of her over. What I would do is take this and move it just like my other images and drop it onto this canvas. Now I can resize it. Hold shift so I don't distort it. Drag that to fit my canvas and make sure I hit enter to set it in place. Alright, so this is about as far as we've gotten in the last couple of classes. So what I want to do is do one more step with her to make her stand out a little bit more. I'm going to with this layer selected, I'm going to go down to my bottom of my layers panels where it says FX. I'm going to click on this, and there's an option here that I think will look good called drop shadow. I'm going to click on that effect, and I'm going to zoom in on my image here so you can see it better. What this shadow will do is kind of make it appear like she is standing out or away from the background a little bit. Almost give a little bit of a three-dimensional effect. The three sliders that will be most important are these right here. Distance, you can see how that affects that image. Spread, how strong that shadow is going to be, or how wide you want that shadow to show up. And then size, kind of see the different effects. The more size, the cloudier and the bigger that shadow is going to be. Another thing you can do is adjust the angle of which your shadow is dropping from your image. You kind of control the light a little bit. If that shadow is too dark, you can also adjust the opacity of that shadow and make it a little bit more transparent. So there's different effects you can mess around with. I'm going to click OK on that, zoom out, and see like what my image looks like so far. We're about halfway through now. So I'm going to stop right here, and part 2 will be posted shortly.